Hello there, people of the internet. Today I'm making a video talking about buying military surplus firearms in 2021. So, unless you are absolutely new to the game and you have no idea what's going on, military surplus firearms have absolutely skyrocketed in price because they have become collectibles versus just random mishmashes of leftover rifles that nobody cares about. This right here is an excellent example of exactly that. This right here is a Mosin Nagant 9130. These used to run like $80 to $100, and you could pick one up for dirt cheap. The ammo was dirt cheap. These rifles are excellent rifles, don't get me wrong, but they used to not be a lot of money at all. Nowadays, they run roughly $350 to $400 depending on the condition that you're getting, and that's for a non-collectible one. Well, although these are great rifles, guess what else you can get for $350 to $400? This right here is my TOZ 122. This right here, I call it the Tula Special just because people recognize the name Tula versus me saying TOZ 122. This right here is a much more modern, much more accurate, much more reliable, much more advanced rifle than the Mosin Nagant was. This right here has iron sights on it, but despite the fact it has iron sights, it does have scope mount for it. This thing right here is exceptionally accurate, especially in comparison to even the most accurate Mosins. A lot of these Mosins are like desperately shot out, or they've had corroded ammo fired through them and never cleaned, or the Mosins are typically not nearly as accurate unless you're getting one in like absolute mint condition. It's going to be less accurate than a modern manufacturer rifle. This rifle right here is also Russian made. It's from the Tula arsenal versus the Mosin. This particular one is the Izhevsk arsenal, but these Mosins right here were also made in the Tula arsenal as well. But both the modern, much more advanced rifle and the military surplus rifle that utilizes a rimmed cartridge, they run roughly the same price. These can be found for about $400 and these can be found for about $400. So in all honesty, unless you specifically want a Mosin, like, versus buying military surplus, you're better off just buying yourself a modern day rifle at the same price, which is going to be much better quality, much more accurate. Well, I don't want to say much better quality because back whenever like the Mosins were made, they were fantastic quality, but they are wore out. They're 80-plus-year-old guns. So getting yourself something that has been made, 10, 15, 20 years ago is definitely going to be in better shape and condition than a Mosin that, went from the siege of Stalingrad to the fall of Berlin. I mean, who the hell knows how much blood is on this Mosin? How many Germans did this thing take down? How many Russians were holding this whenever they were hit by mortar fire or shot from a sniper? Or hell, did this just sit in some warehouse somewhere and not get used at all? Although I know for a fact that's not the case looking at it, definitely got used. Versus my Tula Special, which is not shot out, probably never had corrosive ammo fired through it even once. Modern production, easy to find, very customizable. These are very modern rifles, and they have all of the perks that a modern rifle would have as opposed to, a rifle from 80 years ago. And at the same price, yeah, I can't really justify. I mean, unless you find yourself like a sporterized rifle that's a military surplus and the person is just offering it at a screaming deal, I can't justify buying military surplus whenever we have the more advanced, better technology available at the same price. Not unless you are wanting specifically that particular rifle. Now that being said, I've heard a couple of times where people were talk about surplus handguns coming in and how they are not expensive and how you can pick them up and they're cheaper than any other alternative. Well, this right here is a good example of that. This right here is my Star BM. This is a 9mm. This right here I picked up for, I think it was like $200, $199, and then some shipping, so like $220 probably. But this right here is a steel frame, 7-shot pistol for like $220 versus my 12-round Taurus G2C which runs probably about the same amount of money. You know, holds 12 rounds, a lot lighter, a lot more efficient. The sights are better. It is more reliable. This right here does not run brass case ammunition very well. For some reason, this right here only runs a steel case reliably, but it tends to not be very accurate. The barrel was definitely shot corrosive ammo through the barrel, and somebody did not clean it. And as a result, the accuracy is definitely not where it should be. Not only that, magazines for military surplus pistols typically are pretty expensive. These run like $40 a piece versus the Taurus magazines, which can be found for like $10 to $15 depending on where it is that you're picking it up from. So we have a much more modern, holds more ammo, way lighter, way cheaper magazine capacity, way more accessories. I can mount a light, laser, I can mount all sorts of stuff to this thing. A lot of these modern polymer frame pistols come optics ready. You can just mount an optic right to it, versus something like this, which would absolutely need a lot of modification to mount an optic to. Despite having basically half the capacity, this right here is significantly more heavy. It's significantly heavier than this right here. This right here, obviously it's a 1911 design. That does have some good perks, but it also has a lot of bad perks. The main bad perk, in my opinion, is having a hammer on it, which jabs into your side whenever you're trying to conceal the thing. I would know, I've done it on several occasions. So why would you spend 220 bucks on a military surplus handgun that is heavier, holds less ammo? I mean, unless you particularly want that specific military surplus handgun, although in this particular case it's like police surplus, but unless you want that particular firearm, then it's just not worth it, because you can get the new manufactured stuff that, you know, still has parts made to this day, that is fully customizable, that has all of the perks of modern manufacturing available to it. You can get that for the same price or cheaper if you're buying on the used market. If you're buying surplus guns, that price is at the used market, versus something like this, which would be that price at the new market. One of these, you know, picked up off the used market would run roughly $180, depending on the condition that it's in. I've seen some run, you know, $160. I've seen some, you know, that were in basically new shape run, you know, $200. Depending on where you go, what you're looking for, it's having the option of new production modern stuff at the same price as the used, burned out, lower technology, military surplus stuff that comes into the market. It's in my opinion, it's just not worth it, not unless you specifically want that particular item. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that any of this stuff is bad. For example, my Star BM, love that gun. Very comfortable to shoot because it's so heavy and it's only firing a 9mm projectile. It's definitely one of my more comfortable handguns to shoot, as opposed to like the G2C, which is significantly snappier than my Taurus. My Mosin Nagant, I love firing this thing, especially whenever I can get ammunition for, you know, 30 cents a round, as opposed to this rifle right here, which I normally run either 7.62 NATO ammo from, or like the cheap steel 308. That stuff normally runs never less than 50 cents a round. They all have pros, they all have cons, but the military surplus, especially at the price point that people are asking for, and especially at the price point that people are actually buying it at, like you could get the modern technology at the same price. It's just not worth buying the military surplus, not unless you actually want that particular military surplus. In my particular case, I have a lot of military surplus rifles, and I wanted those particular rifles, which is why a lot of times I would pay the prices that I would pay. However, a lot of times I would come across rifles that I did not mind either paying a premium for, or rifles that I actually got a really good deal on. Like, I've had ends on both ends of the spectrums there. Like my Arasaka, I paid like 180 bucks for that. My Sporterized Type 53, I paid 150 bucks for that. My Jungle Carbine, my Santa Fe lookalike, I think I paid like 250 bucks for that thing. My Lee Enfield, my number 4 Mark 1. That right there, I think I dropped like 400 bucks on it, which is about average price that you're gonna find those things at. But I wanted a number 4 Mark 1. Like, that was the rifle in particular that I wanted. I was looking for that one specifically, and I came across it, so I decided to pick it up. $400, I mean, that could have gotten me a whole slew of modern rifles that would have served the purposes that Enfield would serve, but the Enfield takes a 303, and that ammunition is very expensive, especially right now. It's a rimmed cartridge. You got to load it properly, otherwise you get rim lock. There's a lot of issues with the Enfield series. That $400, if I did not particularly want a number 4 Mark 1, I definitely would have been better off spending it on something else. Now, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and lob some lead downrange at my steel silhouette down there. This here is my Star BM. I've got 6 rounds in this and 6 rounds in my Taurus. We're going to go ahead and start off with our handgun cartridges right here. The reason why I'm firing these is, A, I've already explained them, and B, I can't come to the gun range and not at least fire off a couple of rounds. It's been a while since I fired this Star BM as well, so like it's been quite a good amount of time since this thing has sent rounds downrange, especially on this channel. If you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this before, go check out some of the older videos I've done on this, because I used to shoot this thing quite often. However, nowadays it mostly just sits as basically decoration. Pretty much my main philosophy with it is, why expend 9mm ammunition through this whenever I can expend it through one of my modern handguns and get training and time in with something that I might actually legitimately use in any real practical purpose. Go ahead and add that little tidbit in the end there. I'm hitting the crap down underneath. I can see the crap like flying up and hitting the target. The target is just kind of, well, I have a bunch of crap holding the target up. So I've got probably about half of a steel silhouette that I can actually hit. And as I'm shooting, I can see the crap just slowly dissipating and the steel target slowly leaning more and more forward. I'm going to try and hit the steel on this one. Alright, yeah, I got the steel on that one. So now I'm going to fire some rounds through my Taurus. This right here is a modern gun for the same price, but I have 6 rounds in this thing as opposed to the 12-round actual capacity of the magazine, just because ammo prices are absolutely skyrocketing right now and I have to be more conservative with my ammunition. Of course, knowing me, I'm probably going to be pretty conservative with my ammo for a while, and then I'm going to blast it all off at once in some crazy video. There's a few things that I don't like about the Taurus that I actually really like about the Star, and the magazine's one of them. I never liked resting my finger on the magazine, just because these magazines do move around, as opposed to the Star, which has a flat magazine on it, so you don't have that finger catch on it. Like this right here just feels very loose and uneasy, and it definitely makes it uncomfortable for me to shoot. I keep thinking that I'm going to cause a malfunction with this thing every time I grip onto that magazine there. It is a nice firing handgun though, but man, that magazine kills me every single time that I shoot this thing. Although I have shot this thing quite a bit, especially today. This is like my, I don't know, 8th video that I've made so far today. I'm getting tired. Alright, now we're going to ring that steel with some real guns. I'm going to go ahead and launch some 7.62x54 rim to that thing, just for fun. I have 3 rounds of 7.62x54 rimmed in this thing, and in the Toolless Special Rifle, I have 3 rounds of 308 tracer ammunition in that thing. So this ought to ring that steel pretty damn good. Ooh, Nelly. Yep, that steel got absolutely flung around. Oh, cool. I hit the crap and something moved. The steel is standing up right now. Oh, Well, that steel didn't stay standing up for very long. My shoulder's killing me. These Mosins, man, they definitely have some harsh recoil behind them. That 7.62x54 rimmed is definitely hitting that target with some authority. Now I've got some tracer ammunition through my tool of special right here. Let's go ahead and dial this back down to 3 power, because 9 power at, oh, I don't know, 40 yards, it's not exactly something that we would want. Oh, Nelly. Yeah, I saw the tracer explosion on that one. That was actually pretty cool to watch. This right here is not nearly as bad of a recoil as the Mosin though, but it does definitely have a punch. That last one didn't have as much of a punch. It felt like, that last round felt like a little bit of a lighter round. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and just double check, make sure that it came out of that barrel. Yep, making sure we have no barrel obstructions. I'd rather be safe than sorry on that aspect. Well, that was actually a lot of fun. I always love shooting these guns. My shoulders don't love it, but I always love shooting these guns. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just gentlemen, the military surplus game, I think, is like done and over with. Even, I mean, I've been told on numerous occasions that even if we have, a, you know, stockpile that's found and a bunch of rifles are surplused into the country, I still don't think prices are going to go down very much for these military surplus rifles. Hell, look at the rifles that are brought in from Ethiopia. A massive amount of Carcanos, or Carcanos, or however you want to pronounce that. A massive amount of those, and Enfield rifles, and just like various rifles in general. A lot of these different rifles were found over in Ethiopia and brought in and bought up by the absolute truckload. And those rifles, despite the fact that we have found this military stockpile, the importer knows what these rifles are going to sell at, because these rifles are already selling at this set particular price. So the importer is selling these rifles at the price that they know that they're going to sell at, and people are still buying these rifles despite the fact that, you know, the supply of them has dramatically increased. And I mean, we have a lot of those guns over here now that have been recently brought in from that stockpile. Despite the fact that the supply has dramatically increased, people are still paying these prices because that's what people will pay for that particular rifle. We would have to have a legitimately significant, like mind-blowingly large amount of rifles come in from some sort of stockpile somewhere in order for it to drop prices. Because from what I've seen, I don't think, I mean, we have found stockpiles and surpluses all over the place, and we brought them in, and prices might drop a little bit because of supply and demand reasons, but people are still willing to pay these amounts of money for these rifles. So I really don't see us finding any stockpiles, you know, really dropping the prices, not unless we have something absolutely mind-boggling that we come across, which I also don't foresee that happening either. So the military surplus game is pretty much over in terms of firearms. The United States is adopting a 6.8 caliber round, I think. So their .223 ammunition is probably going to be surplused. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of .223 surplus. We're probably going to see a lot of M4 parts kits as well. Solid maybe on that one. I know that your government's administrations are not a fan of letting the United States civilian populace have access to these rifles. Even though it's completely legal, they still don't like it. So there's no guarantee that they're going to surplus the M4 parts kits. They might just destroy them, get rid of them, etc., etc. We'll see what happens on that. But the ammunition, I'm certain, will be surplused, because we are already seeing ammunition get surplus from the U.S. military. So we might see some cheaper ammo. That might be a plus. But as far as the rifles go, yeah, I'm willing to bet and say that our really cheap military surplus rifles, you know, that is a thing of the past. So as much as it breaks my heart to admit that, even the handguns, it's all a thing of the past, just because people are willing to pay the prices that they are paying in order to get these things. I mean, it'd be different if these guns weren't moving. It'd be different if people were not paying the prices to get these firearms, but they are, and I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel. I do this kind of stuff all the time. If you like the video, do me a favor and actually like the video. That helps out with the algorithm. In the description, you're going to find a link to all sorts of stuff. That being said, I don't really know what I'm going to do next. We have wind picking up, and it's cold, so that tells me it's going to start raining before too terribly long. I might make another video before that happens. So I'm going to go figure out what I feel like doing about that. You guys go off. Have a fantastic day, and of course, thanks for watching. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.